Hello everybody! If you want to read all the story's content in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short Story 707, The Carnival of Lost Souls, Upper Beginner. In the city of New Haven, a carnival appeared without warning. It was a beautiful summer evening, and the smell of sugary tweets wafted through the air as colourful lights illuminated the darkening streets. People gathered to watch the carnival's mesmerizing performances, but something felt off. The performers were unlike any seen before. Their faces were pale, and their eyes seemed to hold a deep sadness. As night fell, the carnival's main attraction, a massive Ferris wheel, began to spin. People climbed into the cars, laughing and screaming with excitement. But as they reached the top, the lights suddenly faded, and an eerie darkness enveloped the wheel. The screams turned to terrified whispers as the riders realized they were trapped. One by one, the cars began to fall from the Ferris wheel, plummeting towards the ground below. But instead of crashing, they landed with a soft thud, as if on a thick layer of fog. The riders stumbled out, disoriented and confused. They found themselves in a vast, abandoned funhouse, lit only by flickering candles. The funhouse was filled with distorted mirrors and eerie sounds. People wandered, trying to find a way out, but the doors led only to more corridors and dead ends. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped, and the carnival was gone. Days passed, and the lost souls, as they came to call themselves, grew weaker. They began to experience strange visions and heard whispers in their minds. They knew they had to escape, but how? One of the riders, a young woman named Sarah, discovered a hidden room deep within the funhouse. Inside, she found a diary belonging to the carnival's former owner, a mysterious and troubled man named Elijah. As she read the diary, she realized that Elijah had made a pact with a dark force to ensure the carnival's success, but at a terrible cost: the souls of those who rode the Ferris wheel. Sarah knew she had to warn the others, but as she left the diary room, she was confronted by Elijah's ghost. He revealed that the dark force had consumed him, and now he was doomed to trap souls forever. Sarah and the others realized they had to destroy the Ferris wheel to break the curse. Together they fought their way through the abandoned funhouse, overcoming their own fears and weaknesses. Finally, they reached the Ferris wheel, now a twisted, nightmarish structure. With a collective effort, they managed to dismantle the wheel, and the curse was lifted. The funhouse began to crumble, and the lost souls were released from their trap. They stumbled out into the bright sunlight, blinking away the darkness. As they looked back, they saw the carnival disappear, leaving behind only a faint scent of sugary treats and a sense of liberation. The city of New Haven was forever changed, and the legend of the Carnival of Lost Souls lived on, a cautionary tale of the terrible price of success. Vocabulary notes: ornate, definition, elaborately decorated or embellished. Example: the funhouse's entrance served as the central point of interest, with an ornate archway and a faded sign reading Madame Luna's Hall of Mirrors. Similar words: decorated, embellished, elaborate, fancy, luxurious. Tips for using the word: use ornate to describe something that is heavily decorated or embellished, such as a piece of jewelry, a building, or a work of art. Limp, definition, hanging loosely or flaccidly. Example: the tattered and worn-out curtain hung limply from a rusty rod. Similar words: loose, flaccid, slack, sagging, droopy. Tips for using the word: use limp to describe something that is hanging loosely or has lost its elasticity, such as a piece of fabric, a branch, or a muscle. Flickering. Definition: burning or shining with an unsteady, uneven flame. Example: the single flickering candle cast long shadows across the walls and floor. Similar words: flicker, flash, sparkle, shine, glow. Tips for using the word. Use flickering to describe a light source that is burning or shining with an unsteady flame, such as a candle, a lantern, or a fire. Muted. Definition: reduced in brightness or color. Example: the color palette of the image was muted and desaturated, with a focus on shades of gray, blue, and purple. Similar words: dim, dull, subdued, pale, washed out. Tips for using the word. Use muted to describe something that has lost its brightness or color, such as a light, a color, or a mood. Eerie. Definition: giving an unpleasant, unsettling feeling. Example: the overall atmosphere of the image was one of decay, neglect, and mystery, giving an eerie feeling to the viewer. Similar words: spooky, creepy, haunting, unsettling, unnerving. Tips for using the word. Use eerie to describe something that gives an unpleasant, unsettling feeling, such as a place, a situation, or a mood. Let's try a quiz for this short story. The answers are at the end. No cheating. In which city did the Carnival of Lost Souls suddenly appear? A. Westwood. B. Oldport. C. Summerfield. D. New Haven. What was the specific carnival attraction that served as the trap for the souls? A. The distorted mirrors. B. The abandoned funhouse. C. A haunted carousel. D. A massive Ferris wheel. Who was the young woman who discovered the diary revealing the carnival secret? A. The pale performer. B. The lost soul. C. Sarah. D. Elijah. According to the diary, why did the carnival's owner, Elijah, make a pact with a dark force? A. To find a lost love. B. To ensure the carnival's success. C. To trap his enemies. D. To gain eternal life. How did the lost souls ultimately manage to break the curse? A. By dismantling the Ferris wheel. B. By defeating Elijah's ghost. C. By finding the secret exit to the funhouse. D. By reading a counter curse from the diary. Story written by Llama 3.18b Instant. Image created by onemin.ai. To read all the story's content in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. CC Music, drifting at 432 Hz, Unicorn Heads. Answers: D, D, C, B, A.
All right, let's dive in. Today, we're stepping into a world that seems perfect. Colored lights, sugary treats, but there's a darkness lurking just under the surface. We're going to break down this really haunting modern fable, the Carnival of Lost Souls, and figure out how it works, what makes it so scary, and what it's trying to warn us about when it comes to ambition. So just picture this, right? You're on the ride of your life, literally at the top of the world. The thrill is incredible. And then everything just stops. The lights go out, the laughter dies, and this chilling feeling creeps in. You realize the ride isn't over. No, in fact, it's just the beginning of a total nightmare. And that question, that's what drives this whole story. Okay, so Every story has to start somewhere, right? This is our setup, the part we call the exposition. It's where we get introduced to the scene and, more importantly, where we get that first little hint that something behind all these bright lights is just not right. So we're in this town, New Haven, and one beautiful summer evening, a carnival just appears out of nowhere. I mean, the whole scene is picture perfect, almost too perfect. You can practically smell the cotton candy, right? The lights are dazzling, the performances are amazing. It's all designed to be absolutely irresistible. Who wouldn't want to go? But this is where we see the first crack in that perfect picture. The story does this brilliant thing where it sets up this huge contrast. On one hand, you have all this promised fun, sugary treats, bright lights, happy screams. But then you look closer at the reality. The performers, they're pale. And you can see this deep, deep sadness in their eyes. That promise of joy just doesn't match up with what you're seeing, and that's where that creepy, unsettling feeling starts to kick in. You just know something's off. All right, so that feeling of unease, it's about to get a whole lot worse. We're now moving into what's called the rising action. This is where things really start to escalate. And the carnival's main trap, well, it's about to be sprung. And what's the bait for this trap? Well, it's the main attraction, of course, the absolute centerpiece of the whole carnival, this massive, towering Ferris wheel. It's sold as the ultimate ride, you know? It's pulling everyone in, promising this incredible view, this amazing thrill. And this is the exact moment everything changes. The riders have made it to the very top. They're at the peak of their excitement, literally. And right there, in that perfect moment, boom, the lights just die. The world goes black, and all those happy screams, they turn into terrified whispers almost instantly. And the terror just ramps up from there. The whole structure of the ride starts to fail. One by one, the cars just drop. They start falling. Can you even imagine that feeling of complete helplessness, just plunging into darkness with absolutely no control? But hold on, this isn't your typical crash. Because instead of crashing into the ground, they land. Softly. But they're not at the carnival anymore. They find themselves in this huge, creepy, abandoned funhouse. You know the kind. Distorted mirrors everywhere, hallways that lead to nowhere, weird sounds echoing all around them. The carnival's gone. The sky is gone. They're completely and totally trapped. So here we go. We've reached the climax of the story. This is the big turning point. All that tension has been building and building, and now it's about to snap. The central mystery is finally going to be revealed, and these poor souls are about to find out what's really going on. Inside this funhouse, time just sort of melts away. Days pass, maybe weeks. The trapped people, they start calling themselves the lost souls, are getting weaker. They're fading. And it's not just that they're physically trapped. Something is draining them, mentally and spiritually. They're being haunted by these strange whispers and awful visions. Hope is just about gone. But then, a breakthrough. One of the writers, a woman named Sarah, finds a hidden room. And inside that room, a diary. And this diary spills the entire dark secret. It turns out the carnival's owner, this guy named Elijah, made a pact with some kind of dark force. He wanted his carnival to be a magical success, but the price, well, the price was the souls of his riders. Every single person who got on that Ferris wheel. And here's the kicker, a really tragic twist. Elijah didn't just get away with it. No way. The dark thing he made the deal with, it consumed him. He is now a ghost himself, basically the warden of this soul prison, doomed to trap people forever. So, in a twisted way, he's just as much a prisoner as they are. Okay, so the secret is out. Now what? Well, the story shifts into what we call the falling action. Now that they have this horrible knowledge, the lost souls finally see a way out. It's not going to be easy, but for the first time, they have a plan. They know what needs to be done. Their path to freedom is crystal clear, but man, it is not going to be easy. To break the curse, they have to destroy the very thing that trapped them, the Ferris wheel. and the only way they can do it is together. This is where the story really pivots, you know? It becomes less about individual fear and more about what a group of people can do when they fight for the same thing. And they do it. They actually succeed. Working together with everything they've got, they manage to tear down that nightmare of a machine. And as the wheel breaks apart, the curse shatters with it. The funhouse, their prison, starts to crumble all around them. A way out, a path to the real world, finally opens up. And that brings us to the very end of the story, the denouement. It's a fancy French word that basically means the untying. It's where all the loose ends get tied up, and we're left with the story's big takeaway. And that moment of freedom is just so powerful. You can almost feel it. The lost souls stumble out of that dusty darkness and into the bright, warm sunlight. They're finally free. And when they look back, the whole evil carnival just vanishes, gone. The only thing left behind is that faint, ghostly smell of cotton candy. And there it is, the moral of the story laid out for us right there. The whole thing becomes a legend. You know, a local ghost story you'd tell around a campfire. But it's a story with a point. It's a classic cautionary tale, a warning about ambition and the terrible price you might pay when you want success so badly you're willing to make a dark bargain. So why is this story so effective? A lot of its power comes from that classic structure we just walked through. You've got the setup, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. By building the world, creating a conflict, cranking up the stakes, and then giving us a clear ending, it uses this age-old formula to tell a story that really sticks with you. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about, doesn't it? I mean, the Carnival of Lost Souls is obviously a spooky story, but its core theme, that feels chillingly real. It really makes you ask yourself, what dark bargains are hiding behind the things we want most? What are the hidden costs of our own ambitions? It's a heavy question, but definitely one worth thinking about.